Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome again to the third presentation in this mini-series on mentoring. My name is Nadia Karallison, and I'm conducting this presentation on behalf of the SACBW. Welcome again to this interesting field of mentoring. The presentation is roughly divided into 5 parts as set out on the content page. Introduction, we will deal with different mentoring models, and last but not least, the conclusion. Section 1, Introduction. In previous presentation, we have dealt with mentor qualities, the whole mentoring process, what mentoring is, what different authors say about mentoring. So we will not cover those again in this presentation. But before we start with the models, let us just have a brief look at different mentoring types as set out in the presentation currently on your screen. The traditional one is right at the top, one-on-one mentoring. And I think in most cases, this is what most people, most of you are familiar with. Secondly, towards your right, we've got group mentoring. That is, as explained by the name, when you mentor a group, mostly in situations where a group has similar challenges. Thirdly, peer mentoring, again, self-explanatory, where peers, people at more or less the same age, same level, mentor one another. Important here is that they learn from one another. Distance or e-mentoring or virtual mentoring, this one has become quite popular in the last slightly more than a year, when lockdown started in this country as a result of COVID-19. Also, many people, we are all familiar with Zoom and Teams, the basic tools used for virtual mentoring. Also, e-mentoring, we can use our emails, WhatsApp, etc. Next, we've got reverse mentoring. The difference here is traditionally, mentoring is the relationship between an older person, more experienced person, with a younger one, referred to as the protege. Reverse mentoring, that relationship is reversed. The older person learns from the younger one. And this, a good example is in the IT field, where the younger generation is more au fait with certain IT applications, etc. Speed mentoring, the next one. Name again self-explanatory, and it's the speed, the time frame at which certain things happen. The reason why I've included this slide is that there is no one size fits all. And depending on the needs of your mentee, of your client, you need to make a decision as a mentor which one is the most appropriate. The top 5 mentoring or coaching models: Grow, Fuel, Oscar, Clear, and Stepper. First of all, what is a model? Model is nothing but a framework, the steps, or just a basic guide for you as the mentor to follow in the mentoring process. And what we've got here is different models, and according to an internet search I conducted, these are the top 5 ones used by many people. Now, later on in the presentation, we will deal with Grow and with Clear. So we'll just briefly refer to Fuel, Oscar, and Stepper. Fuel, Oscar, frame the conversation. I think we've referred enough to conversation, to communication, to questions, to answering, etc. The current situation that need to be understood, that is the current reality. Explore the desired state. What is it that you want to achieve? and lay out the success plan, the planning component, what you need to do to achieve those goals. The next one, Oscar, the outcome, the goals, situation, the choices, what are your options, then your action that you need to take, and lastly, also the review, that reflection, the measurement. Did you manage to achieve what you really set out to achieve? Stepper, the subject, that has to do with the nature of the challenge, the discussion, the focus area. Target objective links to goal. Emotion, the perception, has to do with the coachee, your client, your planning. Next, your pace, the speed, at the time frame at which you are working. And lastly, what are the actions that you will be taken? So what we say here, as what we have said previously, mentor models, the models are nothing more but a framework, the steps, the guide that you will follow that will assist you as a mentor to achieve your goals whilst you are mentoring. So what we could see from the three mentoring models that we just looked at, there are various types of mentoring models. There are many. Any internet search or any search will actually confirm this. So why did I include this? Basically, to show you that you as a mentor, you've got certain choices to make depending on what your mentees, your clients' needs are. You can select a model from many available. So you will look at the needs, you will look at how suitable is a specific model before you make that choice. So what are the common features of models? First of all, there is a contract has to be signed or some agreement has to be reached. And that contract normally includes things like the goals, the ground rules, the meeting times, the relationship, etc. There's conversation that will take place, and there is a level of engagement. And in one of the next models, we'll elaborate more on engagement. Communication, as we've said earlier, is core to mentoring. Questions and how to phrase a question, listening, active listening, because if you don't listen, you will never understand the needs, the challenges of the next person. Because only when you actively listen, you will be able to ask purposefully questions. So that one is very important. The current reality pops up on a regular basis. What is the current reality of the mentee? In other words, what are the current challenges that the mentee experiences? That is important, not only for the challenges currently experienced, but how will you measure also success later on? Because you, the mentor and the mentee, must be able to see what progress has been made and whether the goals you have identified, you have formulated, have been achieved. Also, the resources available. It's senseless formulating goals and you don't have access to certain resources needed, or it's simply not available. So that is also a crucial one. We can look at the challenge that to a certain extent forms the basis of the mentoring relationship also. The reason why mentor and mentee get together. The challenge, possibly you can look at the topic, the subject area. Goal setting is also important because there has to be a purpose for the whole mentoring relationship. What goals do you want to achieve, short, medium, and long term? Goals without actions or an action plan means absolutely nothing. And important is also to look at time frames. What time do you allocate yourself to achieve certain goals? Progress must be monitored, because once you don't achieve your goals or you fall behind, then you need to find out what the reasons are. Review and reflect also, these come up at the end. After a goal has been achieved, then it is important that you review what has been achieved. Was I successful? And of course, after that, what do I do next? So let us look at section 2. Here we'll look at one of the models I will briefly just cover with you. The 5-phase relationship model. There you have your 5 phases. In the center, we've got purpose, engagement, planning, emergence, and completion. Now, all of you will notice that purpose has a central position. In other words, every mentoring session, just like any mentoring relationship, must have a purpose. So in addition to the overall purpose, also when you meet with your mentee, with your client, with your protege, there must be a purpose. So after the allocated time, the hour or the 2-hour session, you can ask yourself, have I achieved my purpose? Was I successful? Did we do what we were supposed to do? The first one here, the next one in the 5-phase relationship mentoring model is engagement. Now, we live in South Africa, a rugby crazy country. And I think the first place where I got to know the term engagement is when I listened to the referee when the 2 teams scrum. Okay, and I can still hear that here in the back of my mind, engage, that instruction coming. So what do we know about this? First of all, there are certain rules that govern this engagement between the 2 teams. There are certain, the manner in which the 2 teams would bind, the manner in which they would engage. In a mentoring context, we would say that, first of all, we will never forget the ultimate purpose of mentoring, to develop, train, educate, share knowledge, etc. But when those 2 parties, irrespective of whether it's group mentoring, one-on-one, or reverse or what the case is, never ever forget what the real purpose of mentoring is, the purpose of getting together, the purpose of engagement. And if we look at that picture, you as the mentor must be able to later on see, maybe not physically as in the picture there, but how the mentee has grown, has developed, has found solutions to certain challenges, because ultimately that is the purpose of mentoring, of the whole engagement between you, the mentor, and the mentee. Engagement, just like in that scrum, there are certain rules that will influence the nature or the manner in which the 2 teams engage. In the mentoring relationship, some of the things that that people can look at, that you as a mentor can look at, are you suitable for to address this type of challenge which the mentee has? Is there a fit between you and the mentee? A term that came up in previous presentation, rapport, trust. Do you 2 connect? A next one also, do you share similar values? the needs of the mentee? Are you in a position to address those needs? What is it that you as a mentor can offer that mentee to ensure the mentee grows? The goals that you two, mentor and mentee, set together. Are you in a position to help the mentee achieve those goals? Also, the learning styles, the learning preference of the mentee. Where do you fit into that learning style? Are you more an autocratic person and the mentee is more participatory? And at the end of the day, a simple question is, what is the match between you two? Can the two of you work together to ensure there is growth, that the purpose, that the objectives are met? The next section in the 5-phase relationship model is planning. Once again, what is the purpose of planning? And that is something that you need to be very, very clear of. Okay? You cannot, formulating goals is one aspect, but it serves no purpose if there isn't an action plan. If you haven't taken the time out to construct a plan on how those goals will be achieved. So the planning component is crucial to ensure the success of mentoring. If you can just look to your left-hand side, the planning phase is important. There should be an action plan. The action plan should include the goals, the action steps, the resources available or to which you have access, the timelines. And at the end of the day, there will be some form of evaluation, whether success has been achieved or not. So the planning component must be emphasized to really ensure that the goals are achieved. Next, in the 5-phase relationship model, we've got emergence. And just look at that plant there. Possibly it started with a seed underground that was nurtured, and that is one of the qualities of a mentor. Nurturing that seedling until that seedling is visible above the ground. It emerges as a new plant. And possibly just reflect for a minute or two. Think about this. What similarities do you share in creating that plant that surfaces now above the ground? Important it is that the mentee and mentor must both be actively involved. It's not me or you, it is both of us. There has to be some form of engagement, that is, get together to discuss, communicate, have conversations, questions and answers about what the real challenges are and how to formulate goals, what is possible, and how that can ultimately be achieved. And then you will at some point in time reach success. Goals are achieved, completion. And that is very often a time for celebration, a time when you reflect, when you review, we have managed to be successful, to achieve the goals set out in the time frames. And now, whilst you reflect, whilst you review everything, a decision sometimes needs to be taken. Do we continue with this relationship? And do we set new goals? So this brings us to the next model. This was listed as one of the models in the top 5 models, and it is known as the CLEAR model. And the CLEAR model, let us look at what the acronym stands for. Contract, listen, explore, action, and review. First, the contract. Now, what exactly is a contract? Nothing but an agreement between two people, mentor and mentee. The next question is, what do you agree on? That this person will mentor me. I've got certain challenges and the mentor will assist me on how to address those challenges. We will formulate some ground rules. Normally, it will include things of mutual respect. What are the boundaries in this relationship? It will include things like how often do we meet? When do we meet? Where do we meet? And important, something that was covered previously, confidentiality. So that contract is important, and for many mentors, this forms the first step in the relationship. A sample contract, we will talk to the website people to put on the SACBW's website. The next, the L in the CLEAR model, important, we've done it in communication, is your ability, mentor and mentee, to listen. Actively listen. Because if you can't listen, if you just hear what somebody is saying, then you will never make sense. You will never understand what the mentee or the next person says or tries to share with you. You will not be able to respond to what the mentee or mentee says. You may be able to react, but not respond in a full manner. And with that, the manner in which you respond, because very often that comes in the form of a question, and it is to ask a meaningful question. So again, maybe go back to the listening component, active listening. The E part in the CLEAR model is to explore. And mentee and mentor will explore together. They will look at, these are the challenges, or this is the challenge, but how can we address it as a team? What can we do about it as a team? Important is once again here to identify, to be aware of what are the resources available to you, to which you have access. Be realistic at all times, not to try to do too much in a too short space of time. And yes, be realistic at all times when you go through this exploration part in the CLEAR model. The next one, action. Action plan. Take action, it's activity. So you've had some conversations, you did some planning, you've listened. Now, what next? Somebody has to do the work. There must be some activity to address the problem. And in some cases, the mentor also has to do some work, but in most cases, that will be the mentee. And again, with your actions, with your activity, ensure that you are realistic in what you want to achieve. And the last one in the CLEAR model, the R stands for review. And that review normally comes at the end of the process. And questions that can be asked, what progress has been made? Is there any progress? And that will be based on the actions that were taken, the activities, the planning that was done. Are we satisfied? Am I satisfied as a mentor? Are you satisfied as a mentee? Have the goals been achieved? What are the experiences? What have we learned from this whole experience? What will we do different next time? And that, what will I do different next time? It's part of that continuous improvement cycle. Did we manage to achieve all the goals within the time frames allocated to us. So that review is important. It's literally when you stand still and reflect, look at the whole process. What have we done in this specific time frame, and how far did we get? And that also, it's honesty and how to take things further. So just in summary around the clear model, the contract, the first step for many, those who use the clear model, the agreement between the two parties. You will look at the goal setting, the ground rules, the time frames, and things like that. Confidentiality, meeting times, the frequency of those meeting times, those are the things that will be captured in the contract. And even if we give you a sample contract, please customize it to your own needs. You don't have to be creative and address your own needs, yours and your mentees. Second one, listen, active, your ability to actively listen. Part of the communication, the conversations that you will have, and only when you actively listen will you be able to respond in a purposeful manner. Explore together. Consider your resources, explore together, identify the options available to you, explore together what are the choices available to you, and important, when you look at the different choices, options, always the one that you select, for every option you choose, there is a consequence. Consider, explore the consequences always so that you can make an informed decision. Next, we've got action, the activities, the work that has to be done. Who will do the work? When will it be done? How will it be done? And always make sure that deadlines are met, the time frames to deliver. And lastly, review the R, a way of measuring whether you have achieved what you set out to achieve, whether the goals have been reached, whether you have learned what you have learned from the process, and whether what changes have been made. The next model, it's a very common, a very popular model, and it can be used in different circumstances. It is the GROW model. The GROW model, an acronym for goal, reality. Some people replace reality with resources. Then we've got options, and lastly, wrap up. Others replace wrap up, the W, with will, even with way forward. Once again, look at your own needs and customize it to your own reality. The GROW model, and there's an example, and maybe I'm not going to talk about that, but you as the mentor has the mentee in your hand, that helping hand, that nurturing hand, that hand to help that little small plant grow and develop. And this is what mentoring is all about. The GROW model, again there, goal, what do you want to achieve? Reality, where are we now? Now the current situation. What are the options available? What can I do about it? And my will. Previous one spoke about wrap up. Here it talks about will. How are you motivated? Are you motivated to really get involved in this? Not just as a mentee, but also as a mentor. The GROW model again, let us look at the goals. The first one, the G. And there you can see literally goals are being set. You need time to achieve those goals. You need to be realistic to achieve those goals. You can't jump from that first plant to the fourth one. So be realistic how you formulate your goals. But important is that or basically anything is within your reach. So it depends on what you set out to do and what you are willing to work towards to achieve. So some advice regarding your goals: dream big, set goals, and take action. And many people just stop with a dream big. Others stop with goals. And unless that last one, action, is taken, goals will never be achieved. So just a few pointers here regarding your goals. Mentor and mentee agree on the goals, not just for the whole mentoring program, but also for the specific session. Mentor and mentee agree on the topic to be discussed, and that is, so that there is buy-in from both parties, the clear direction that needs to be taken, what can be achieved, and by the end of a session, really, how successful were we? Your goals: smart, specific. See how you formulate it. Is the goal measurable? Can it be achieved? Are you realistic about it? And the time frames. Here again, depending on what suits your need, we've got specific, we've got measurable, but here we've got actionable and relevant. So what we are saying is here is goal setting is such an important part of the whole mentoring session. Many of us have prior knowledge about goal setting, but within the time allocated for this presentation, we will not be able to do justice, and possibly a whole presentation must only focus on goal setting, and it would be good if that could be an interactive session. Just something to keep in mind: a goal without a plan is just a wish. I think we referred to that earlier. Dream big, set some goals, but unless it is supported by an action plan, some action to be taken, goals will never be achieved. The next in the GROW model, the R stands for reality. And we've referred to this in previous slides. The reality refers to current, the present time, now. What is the situation now? And normally it is the challenge. What is it that the mentee wants to change, want to do differently? So we look at the current reality. Also, it is important that we talk about the current reality, some agreement on it, because based on the understanding of the current reality, the goals, the next steps, the way forward will be formulated. Just a caution to the mentors regarding the current reality. Always remember that no two people are the same. Something may not, maybe it's not a challenge for you, maybe it's not a problem for you, but you never understand what is going on in the next person. So never assume what the reality is of the next person. Because also remember that rapport, that understanding, because unless you understand, you listen carefully, the success will not be achieved. So regarding the reality, the current time frame, the present time, some questions to consider. Maybe that you can ask the mentee, what have you done so far to achieve your goals? In other words, is it the first time that you have this problem? You want to start a business. You want to take it to a next level. You want to apply for funding. And that will give you a sense of what the mentee has done, really about the current reality of that person. What has stopped you from achieving that? If you have maybe tried previously, why didn't you achieve it? And unless you have this type of discussion, you may just repeat things that have failed in the past, or it may give you some more information regarding what the mentee has done in the past and why the mentee has failed. The R, some people use the R also as resources. And please take note that you cannot achieve anything unless you have certain resources available. And what is normal for you may be a challenge for the next person. Earlier today, I looked at, I don't want to say a cartoon, but just something somebody shared on social media, where somebody said, we all want virtual teaching, but some of us don't have access to computers, don't have access to data. So look at your resources available. And that resources is about, that your resources are about your current reality, what you have access to, and what can impact on achieving your goals or not achieving your goals. So be realistic also about this. Resources also, you may ask, why do we have it here with options? It's once again, what are the resources available to you? Because that will influence you in the decision, what option do I take? And the third one here, grow model, it deals with options. Depending on what your reality is, what your goals are, what your resources are, you will be faced with different options you can take. In other words, options, how are we going to achieve these goals, considering my reality, considering my resources? So always keep in mind that the option you select, there is a consequence for that. So as the mentor, you will possibly have to guide the mentee also in terms of the options to select and also the time frames allocated to achieve certain goals. So every option you choose has consequences, and many of us sometimes the choices we have to make, careful consideration, weighing up certain things, what is available to us and what do we ultimately select. I included this, a book I recently read on choices, and the author said they never ever use the phrase, what if? All right? Don't, it's almost, what if I had a car? What if I could do this? What if that? Because that what if, it's so far removed from your current reality, and it's almost just almost don't waste your time on that. The last W for in the GROW model stands for, some people interpret it as will. In other words, how motivated are you? What, on a scale 1 to 10, where will you, what will your will be? How committed are you? Are you motivated? Are you keen to make a success of this? And many say, if it's not 10 out of 10, then it's not enough. Okay, then you don't have the willpower to make a success. But many look at will, the W, as will, your willpower, your commitment, your motivation level. All right. So if we look at will, are you, your will to go from A to B, point A to B, how committed are you to make certain sacrifices to achieve the goals you and your mentor, or you and the mentor, you've agreed on? Wrap up normally comes towards the end of the whole process also. And just at the last step here, when you wrap up, have the goals been achieved? Okay, so that is something to talk about. What have we learned? And it's not only the mentee that must learn, also the mentor, because that will help you to develop also as a mentor amongst other. Have I developed? What has changed in the meantime? Were the actions I took the correct actions? You can look at your decision making when you had all those options available to you. And it is really about what were those things the right things that we did? And normally, towards the end of the session, when the goals have been achieved, you will reflect, you will review that part. And based on that, the next step would be what next? Is there a what next? Are there more goals you want to set out to achieve, or what will happen next? So in your grow model, also the W has to do with the way forward. In other words, you've reached your goals. So what are the next steps, if any? And are there any new goals you would like to set out that you will now start working on? So in short, we can look at the GROW model. The acronym, the G, stands for goals, short, medium, and long term goals, and we would be guided by SMART, the reality, what is happening now, currently, at present. What are the resources available to you? What are the resources required to achieve those goals? What are the resources you have access to in order to achieve those goals? You have to be very realistic around that. Then you will get to the point where you need to look at, you have your goals, but now what are the options available to me to achieve those goals? Choices that I have to make. What are the consequences for those choices? What are the opportunities out there? But ultimately, it boils down to goals that have to be achieved. And looking at your decision making in terms of the options available to you, both the mentor and the mentee. And in many cases here, mentor will guide the mentee because mentor is the more experienced one. Then the W, wrap up, that is review and reflect now what happened, your will, your willpower. How committed are you? Are you serious about doing this? Don't come and waste my time here. And last but not least, what is the way forward? The next steps, and if there are new goals that you want to set, that you want to start working on. And last but not least, let us just briefly wrap up and look at the conclusion. Just some advice to you as a mentor. Be the mentor you wished you had. I think there comes a time in each and everybody's life when you be honest about it. If you had that sounding board, that ear to listen, that person you could trust maybe to discuss something very, very confidential. So what we're saying is go back to those characteristics, be the mentor you wished you had at some point in your life, and work towards becoming that mentor for the next person. Make the difference in that person's life. Mentoring, for many of you, I don't think, if it didn't make sense to you, it is not just about the mentor pouring knowledge, information into the head of the mentee. Just look at it as both of us can learn from this experience. Because surely, just on the first level, you as a mentor also want to develop, and you can only develop by participating, by acting as a mentor. So look at your own needs also and how you can benefit from this process. In the context, I think I understood why many of you need to become mentors now. Don't wait for the mentee to contact you. Go out, make yourself available, meet them one-on-one or in person rather than only sending emails and WhatsApps. That is part of your take the initiative, in other words. And that first presentation we had, if it was a session, a contact session, I think these are the things that would have emanated from a brainstorming. What is mentoring all about? It's about support, it's about help, it's about advice, it's about sharing, it's about skills, it's about motivating others. So in a nutshell there, for me, this was a very appropriate slide just to wrap up everything, because your role, your task, your responsibility as a mentor, you've got these different roles, and you will from the one role to the other, depending on what the needs are, what the situation is with that mentee. And lastly, I can just wish you success in this venture, in taking that protege, that youngster, that inexperienced person by the hand and guiding her towards something much better, something much bigger. And remember, Rome wasn't built in one day, but also we do these things not because we expect anything in return, but your goodwill will be recognized. So thank you for listening to me, and we will see what first of all, we are waiting for your questions. We will respond to that, and all the blessings in for the future. Thank you.